So today we're going to talk about the importance of focusing on one thing. And so many times we have impossible goals, and it's like we're trying to juggle a bunch of balls in the air and we never get one thing accomplished. So, Dr. Sabrina, I just want you to dig in on the power of the one thing.
Oh my gosh, there's so much power in the one thing. If I would have learned this 15 years ago, I think my life would be very different. My stress level would certainly be a lot different. I have historically bitten off way more than I can chew, which on the one hand, there's some benefits to that because if you have lots of goals and even if you don't accomplish all of them, but you accomplish some of them, well, you went further than if you only had one goal, or so we think. And I actually am coming to really appreciate that when we have one goal, one focus, how much more effective we can be with that focus. And I learned about context switching. Maybe it's been about 10 years ago now. And it is such a productivity killer. I could not believe what it does to our productivity. And I'm pulling up a slide that I want to have in front of me as I go through this because when we're working on one project, it gets 100% of our focus. But as soon as we start adding multiple projects that we're working on and multiple goals, our focus starts to get watered down and we lose productivity to context switching. So when we have one project, it gets 100%, and there's no loss of productivity due to context switching. As soon as we're working on two simultaneous projects, now each one is only getting 40% of our focus, and there's a 20% loss in productivity to context switching. When we get to three projects, each project is only getting 20% of our focus, and there is a 40% loss of productivity to context switching. At the point where we're at five projects that we're working on simultaneously, each one is getting about 5% of our focus, and there is a 75% loss of productivity to context switching. And so you may be thinking, well, I'm pretty good at shutting down my notifications and being focused when I'm working, so I'm not losing that context switching. But when we are going back and forth and saying, okay, I've got this project over here that I'm working on, and then tomorrow I'm going to go over here and work on this project, which is what I used to do. And I would even time block it. Like I thought that was going to make me more effective. And it would take me multiple quarters to accomplish these projects. When we got really good on the Tap the Potential team of holding ourselves accountable to one quarter, one business goal, we started accomplishing things, and our to-do lists actually started shrinking. And that was the most amazing thing because it wasn't just that it was affecting me individually, but it was affecting our entire team. When I was trying to overachieve and overaccomplish, I was leading in that way. So our team members felt pressure to show up in that same way and tackle multiple goals each quarter. And then there's nothing more demoralizing than coming to the level 10, and we have to say if our goals are on track or off track. And there's nothing more demoralizing than having to say week after week that something is off track or multiple things are off track. Then we start to feel like, wow, we're not effective. We're not good leaders. We're not getting things done. But when we can come to our level 10 meetings and go through our quarterly rocks and say on track, on track, on track, we feel pride in that. We feel good. We feel a sense of accomplishment. And so we have a motto of focusing on one thing until successfully completed. So knowing what is the one thing that is going to move the needle in the business What is the one thing that's going to make everything else easier or unnecessary? In our quarterly meeting, we identified what I consider to be one domino. And when we can make this domino fall, 5 other dominoes fall, really big dominoes. And it all comes down to we've got to move this one domino, and there's one focus, and our entire team got aligned around that one focus and looking at what needs to happen to make that one domino fall.
All of this is so true. And I am guilty as charged. I used to come up with my own quarterly goals on top of our team goals. And it felt very overwhelming. And I'm not going to say that I didn't accomplish everything. Sometimes I did. However, if you didn't listen to the last episode about being fully present, like go back and listen to that. I don't feel like I did it from a space of being fully present. And also, I feel that I was creating an unsustainable path for myself. So that was thinking about my goals outside of working time, nonstop. And it was exciting for a really long time. And then I just realized, okay, wait, stop. Put on the brakes here. You really need to focus on one thing at a time. And the other thing really is, remembering sometimes that our A players will take on more than what they need to. So when we had our quarterly meeting last week, I shared my rock. I just want it to be that I'm fully present. And you were so supportive, and the team was so supportive. And in that moment, I realized I am creating more than is expected of me. I am putting that on myself. And what if I just sit back and focus on the one thing that's going to make everything easier, which for me right now, I know is to just be fully present. And there's going to be so much magic that happens. So be really mindful about your A players and how they're showing up, and let them know they're at capacity or over capacity sometimes, because you're going to get the best of them when they're not. And the context switching really is something that I had to learn for myself. It takes up so much mental capacity to constantly be context switching.
Yes. Yeah, when I was working on multiple projects for the business, one of the things that I was really aware of is if I had an hour blocked to get something done, I would have to spend a good 10 minutes or longer in that hour refreshing my thinking about where was I? Where did I leave off? What do I need to do during this hour? What do I need to accomplish? And then by the time I would get done with that hour, I would be trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to work on next time when I have a little bit of spare time to work on this? And that's just it's so ineffective versus if we have one project and we're coming back to it and coming back to it and just working on it until it's done, we don't have to do all that catch up thinking.
Yeah. One thing that will make you very effective is to be strategic about your time. So I'm not talking about time management. We know all the time management tools, practices, and most of us can't effectively implement them. And it's because we're not bringing strategy to the table. So you need to be strategic about your time. And when you're identifying what that domino is, so what that one thing is that's going to be the biggest impact and move the needle forward the most, when you're strategically planning what project you're going to work on next, you need to be mindful about the things that are going on in your business. And I'll give a very clear example of this. I had one goal in mind for Q3 and Q4. I did not think forward strategically to consider everything that was going on. I had a couple of conferences. I had a vacation. We have our annual retreat with our clients coming up. We have holidays coming up. So I just created these projects, and in my mind, in my heart, felt like, well, this has to get done. I did not think strategically about all of the other things that were happening in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. And Amy on our team reminded us, okay, as you look at your goals and you start setting your quarterly rocks, remember, here's what's coming up in the fourth quarter. This is the time off we have for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. And then we have VIP days for our clients. And and it was just really clear, like, oh, well, we have a few weeks to get things done. So let's be realistic about what we can do in a few weeks that makes everything else easier or unnecessary.
I love this. And another consideration for you to make is the power of giving yourself the space that you need to complete a project. Just because you establish a goal, a project to be completed in a quarter, it's not always the best result to just get it done. And I can remember the beginning of this year, we created a plan to take your 4-week vacation in a year. And we created that. We're already doing it. But so much opportunity came from me just continuing to sit in that after the quarter, right? So I've given myself this entire year really to continue refining that. And there is so much magic in what the final result was, because I didn't just rush through it and say, oh, now it's done. I recognized this needs more time and thought, and I need to nurture this a little bit more. And man, it has just been a game changer for me not to think and feel like, okay, well, I just need to check off this thing on my list, right?
Right.
So be very strategic and give yourself grace and just stay with that one thing until it's done before you move on to the next thing. And that is going to change it all.
Well, and that's really when you're doing any kind of new initiative, you need to implement it and you need to see how people respond to it. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to hone and refine it from there. And so that's what you've done with establishing the path to a 4-week vacation. So when someone starts with us in our Better Business, Better Life program, if they give us 5 hours a week, we have a plan now where you can accomplish a fully unplugged 4-week vacation in 12 months' time. Well, we needed people to walk that journey with us for you to be able to see, here's what I could make easier. And that's really everything that you're doing is you're looking for, how do I create ease in our clients' lives? Because that's innovation, right? That's step 3 of the Tap the Potential solution. It's those micro innovations. And you have created something now that you shared with our leadership team that really simplifies things for our clients. And the other thing that I love is it creates a space for our clients to see on a regular basis how they're paying themselves more and how they're taking more and more time off. And as our clients are tuning into that, they're owning their successes more and more. I loved in one of our clients' milestone celebrations, a client who's been with us for a year, when he was asked about his time off, he said, well, I took this amount of time off, which is new and different. He said, but I also don't want to miss all the little bits of time off that I took off that I have never done in years, where we've taken long weekends and added extra trips onto things that we've done. And it's seeing that's little micro innovation, because in the past on those milestone celebrations, we would ask clients about time off and they would say, I don't think I've taken that much time off this year. But now you have our clients checking in with themselves on their call strategy form from week to week, sharing how much time they've taken off in that 2-week period. So they're much more tuned in to, have they taken more time off? And if they haven't, what opportunity do they have to have more time off? So it's what we focus on grows, but all of this would be missed if you, Melissa, had just said, I've created the path to a 4-week vacation in a 12-month period of time, and now I'm on to my next project, right? And we wouldn't be paying attention to the subtlety. And that's where the innovation happens. It's in the subtlety.
Yeah. I want to talk about how to get to that one thing. So I can totally appreciate how our listeners may be thinking, oh, there's 50 things I need to do in my business. How in the one do I pick the one thing and what do I start with? So I'm going to share a couple of tips and then I'm going to open it up to you, Dr. Sabrina. So my first challenge is to just ask yourself, instead of adding one thing, what's one thing I can let go of? The next tip, and this is a huge ask, but it will change your life. Take some time off of work. Just get away. And then the night before you're going back, ask yourself this powerful question. I'm going back tomorrow to my business, and I'm taking every experience that I've had, what I've learned and what I know now. If I could restart my business from scratch tomorrow and go back at choice, what would I be doing?
Mm. Mm.
So we need time and space to get our nervous system settled, get out of our heads, to breathe, to focus on what we need before we can really reflect on that one thing that's going to move the business forward.
Yeah. And I want to say, in my own experience, for both personally for myself as a business owner, but also I see this time and again with our clients. When we try to decide ourselves what our one thing is, we tend to think too small.
Mm.
And we miss the bigger picture of what makes everything else easier or unnecessary. I have been so appreciative of having coaches over the years and going into a coaching session and thinking, like, I don't need you to coach me. I know what the answer is. I just need time to go do it. So I don't even know why I'm showing up here for the session, but I paid for it. So here I am. Yeah, right. We have those thoughts. I know. And then my coach walks me through whatever's going on and then says, let's pull back a minute and let's look at the bigger picture. And that's when I know, like, oh, I've missed some things. And I love coming out of those calls because there's something easier to do than what I was focusing on. And that's it, right? The one thing usually makes everything else easier or unnecessary. And usually the one thing is quite easy. It's not hard. It doesn't take huge amounts of time. It's not a heavy lift. But we need that person, that objective person outside of us who's holding our vision, who knows what we're trying to accomplish, who will pull us back out of the weeds and say, let's look at the bigger picture and let's see what the one thing really is that's going to make everything else easier or unnecessary. So my biggest tip around this is quit trying to do this by yourself. Get out of your head, ask for help, let yourself receive help. Trust that help is out there, competent help is out there that will really make an impact for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a tool that can support you determine what you need to focus on next. And when you take this assessment, you're really going to consider things that you hadn't considered in a really long time. And after you take the assessment, you'll get an invitation to meet with Caitlin, and Caitlin will help you really narrow down what that focus is, what that next step needs to be. So just pop over to tapthepotential.com/assessment, and we're going to help you figure out that thing so you don't have to do it yourself.
Yeah, you're going to take the Better Business, Better Life assessment, and you're going to come out of that with feedback from Caitlin on your $10,000 an hour activity. Like, she's going to look at your answers and she's going to say, here, go focus on this. This is what's going to move the needle for you in your business. And you can quit thinking, quit overthinking, get out of your head. And it's such a relief to be able to say, oh, I know what to focus on.
Yeah, and we know it's Q4. You're getting ready to plan 2026. You're thinking about all of those goals for next year. So you don't have to do it alone. Just pop over, take the assessment, and we will get you going in the right direction and in the most necessary direction.
So tapthepotential.com/assessment.
Perfect. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week on the Profit by Design podcast.